here we go with section 2, modeling adding integers with algebra tiles. So, I told you in the last lesson that we would be working with negative integers in this chapter, so lesson 2, here we go. Now, it says to model with algebra tiles, but obviously you guys cannot move algebra tiles around on your notes, so we are going to use pluses and minuses. So in our first example here, we see a -2 plus -4. So what we would do in this case, we have 2 negatives over here and 4 negatives on the right. There are no positives to cancel any of those negatives out, so we just need to go through and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they were all negative. So -2 plus -4 gives us an answer of -6. All right, if we move on to the next one, -3 plus 2, I see we have different signs this time. So I have 1, 2, 3 negatives versus 2 positives. I grab my highlighter. Those two match up, those two match up. They zero themselves out. A negative and a positive equals a 0. So I'm left with 1 negative, which means our answer is -1. Okay, and I'm going to go in a circle here. So 5 plus -3. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positives versus 1, 2, 3 negatives. Again, match them up. So those 3 are gone. Left with 2 positives. So our answer is a +2. Make sure you're keeping the sign of whatever's left over. And our last example on this slide. 1, 2, 3, 4 negatives versus 1, 2, 3, 4 positives. Match them up. Gone, 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 gone. Again, they add up to 0 when they match up. I have nothing left over, so our answer would be 0. Which brings us to our little star here at the bottom. Hopefully you guys can squeeze this in. An additive inverse. So an additive inverse is an integer and its opposite. When you add them, so when added together, they equal 0. So an example of that would have been -4 plus 4, -10 and 10, a +8 and a -8. So any integer and its opposite, when they add together, they equal 0. Okay, so there's examples of adding with positive and negative integers. Now we're going to go through these same numbers again, but we're going to use our number line. Now, I want you guys to see how these number line models work, because you will be seeing examples of this on your test. You will be seeing examples of this on your PSSAs at the end of the year. So we want to make sure you understand modeling with a number line. So first example, -2 plus -4. We always start at 0. Draw a line there. Now, -2, negative means to the left. So negative, left, positive, we would move to the right. So I'm going to move 2 to the left, put another line. Then above that, we're going to start with our second number, so plus -4. So again, we're going to move to the left from this point, 4 lines down at the bottom. And if you follow that down, you'll see we end up at -6 again. So -3 plus 2, again, always start at 0. A negative, so 3 to the left. And from that -3, I have a +2. So we'll go 2 back to the right, which lands us at -1. And -4 plus 4, starting at 0. 4 to the left. From that point, +4, so 4 back to the right. And again, you'll see we end at 0. These numbers should look familiar. They're the same examples from up above. And this time we're going to start 5 to the right, finally starting in a positive direction. And from that point, -3, so 3 to the left, which leaves us at 2. So 2 different ways that you can think about adding our integers. You could either do our pluses and minuses, which would be the same as algebra tiles, or you could use a number line, and we will have number lines that you guys can look at if you need them. All right, let's look at a word problem. By the end of the first quarter of a football game, Gary had gained 42 yards and had lost 9 yards. Gary lost an additional 18 yards and gained 58 yards in the second quarter. Write an equation to represent his total yardage for the first half of the game. Okay, so picking out information. So he gained 42 yards. Now if I go through, I want to find out all my gains first. So he gained 42 yards, then eventually he gained another 58 yards. And if we go back, he lost 9 yards and then lost 18 more yards. Now, writing an equation. Remember, equation, it's underlined there for you, but equation must have an equal sign. And it's typically going to have an unknown as well. So let y be Gary's total yards. So y equals, he gained 42, gain is a positive. Then he lost 9, so minus 9 or plus a negative. Then he lost an additional, again, that's a negative. And then finally gained 58, so plus 58. Now it asked you to write the equation to represent his total yardage. It did not ask you to solve it. So we're just going to leave it at that. All right, you'll see at the bottom of your screen there, a little thing to help you remember. So think LADS. When we are adding and subtracting, or just adding, sorry. When we are adding our integers, when they are like signs, you're going to add them. When they are different signs, you're going to subtract them. So same, sum, add the numbers together. Different, difference, subtract our numbers. So, give you guys a little bit of practice here. So first thing I want you to do is find the sum. So what is negative 19 plus negative 7? And in our second one, what is negative 32 plus 9? Now, again, go back here and think about what we said here. If they have the same sign, we're going to add our numbers and keep the sign. If they are different signs, then we are going to subtract. So try those out. We will discuss them more tomorrow as far as what those rules meant. And then last up, we have a quick word problem for you. At 4 a.m., the outside temperature was a negative 28 degrees Fahrenheit. By 4 p.m., it rose 38 degrees. What was the temperature at 4 p.m.? So try those 3 problems. Pause the video until you have them done, and then we are done with section 2.